Support for the roundup comes from Symphony 3. Councils around the country are working hard to keep their communities safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies such as bushfires and floods. And in recent weeks, Symphony 3 has been working with councils around Victoria, including Greater Bendigo, Mildura, Ararat and Golden Plains, to create emergency dashboards, pulling together live data including weather, traffic, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. An emergency dashboard is cost-effective and can be deployed in just 3 days. Find out more at www.symphony3.com. Coming up, concerns over council finances persist as the Victorian Government's big build is blamed for a growing sector skills shortage. A council closes the book on a misconduct investigation. A call to rename wards with Indigenous names rejected. Wollongong Council knocks back a police brutality debate. Gold Coast Council's wage offer criticised for being too low. Mayoral contenders emerging in Tasmania. And a WA Council chief subject to investigation. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy, back with more news from and about councils across Australia and beyond. Also today, a Deputy Shire President resigns, and in the UK, a 4-year planning dispute ends in disappointment for actor Martin Clunes. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. Welcome along to a brand new week of the Local Government News Roundup, our first autumn edition. It's Monday, the 2nd of March. And those Kennett-era amalgamations are resurfacing in a new debate. As we reported late last week, inner city mayors have been warning that councils are approaching a financial cliff driven by capped rate rises and rising service costs. In an editorial from The Age published on Friday, it argued that the state government cannot just dismiss the issue as kite flying because without funding reform or carefully consulted structural change, council finances will keep deteriorating. Councils say the state has worsened the squeeze through cost shifting, and multiple inquiries and reports show the gap between spending needs and revenue capacity is widening as key sustainability indicators decline. Meanwhile, the Herald Sun reported on a growing skills shortage in the sector. Councils say major state big build projects are pulling planners, engineers and project managers away from local works. Regional and rural councils say they cannot match soaring wages on big infrastructure sites and warn that basic projects like road repairs are being delayed and costing more. The concerns are part of submissions to a federal inquiry into the financial sustainability of local government, with councils also pointing to higher contractor prices and rising material costs. Some say they're struggling to deliver large capital works programs as contractors prioritise bigger state government contracts. And amid scrutiny of alleged CFMEU corruption and project cost blowouts, local government groups are calling for action to curb cost pressures and protect essential services. It's a topic that's not going to go away. We'll be talking sustainability about South Australian councils a little later in this episode, and we'll keep you posted on any new developments as this debate looks likely to continue for quite some time. Now to other news out of Victoria. The book has been closed on a misconduct investigation involving a Macedon Ranges Shire councillor. At a meeting last week, the council officially resolved to take no further action against Councillor Dominic Bonanno following his admission to driving in a council vehicle under the influence of alcohol last year. A high-level review by the local government inspectorate found the incident did not reach the legal threshold for serious misconduct. The council noted that Councillor Bonanno has already apologised and has taken an extended period of unpaid leave, which continues through until the 25th of May. Officials say, with the independent watchdog satisfied and the matter remaining with the courts, the governance review is now complete. The Victorian Government has endorsed the green route as the preferred alignment for the proposed Yarrawonga-Mulwala River crossing. The endorsement means all 4 government bodies, Federation Council, Moira Shire Council and both state governments, are now aligned on the preferred route. A comprehensive study assessed both green and grey options, concluding the green route provides more efficient network outcomes in the long term. Funding hasn't been confirmed though. The Victorian Government has stated the project remains a priority as they work with Transport for New South Wales on shared Murray River crossings. Central Goldfields Shire Council is urging the state government to add more weekday trains between Maryborough and Ballarat. The council wants 5 services a day, up from 2. It says more trains would improve access to study, work and essential appointments in Ballarat and Melbourne. An advocacy platform for the state election is due in the coming weeks. Melton Council is demanding urgent clarity on the scope and timing of the Western Freeway upgrade. The council will write to the Transport and Infrastructure Minister seeking details on how the $1 billion commitment will be staged. It's also pushing for added works, including noise walls, extra lanes and upgraded interchanges, according to the Star Weekly. Melbourne City Council will vote on a plan to replace Southbank's ageing red stair installation with a lower grey stair and platform design. The proposal would add green space and reduce the structure's height to improve sightlines. It's estimated to cost $1.73 million, with staged funding flagged across future budgets. ABC News reported that a previously announced international design competition would be abandoned under this proposal. A committee vote is scheduled for Tuesday. Sections of the Tatura Skate Park are shut after concrete infrastructure was deliberately damaged. The broken areas are now cordoned off while safety checks and repair plans are finalised. Police have been notified and Greater Shepparton City Council is asking the public for information. Swan Hill Rural City Council has issued a formal notice of intention to sell the former GrainCorp site on Monash Drive. The council says the rezoned cleared riverfront land is ready for expressions of interest from developers and would unlock significant commercial, tourism and economic outcomes. Community submissions on whether the land should be sold or retained close at 4 p.m. on Friday the 27th of March. And Cardinia Shire Council has welcomed new federal funding to expand local emergency relief services. The council hasn't said how much funding it will receive, but Mayor Brett Owen said it will help providers deliver food, material aid, crisis assistance and referral support during cost of living pressures. Also making news, Latrobe City Council has endorsed an economic development strategy to guide economic decisions and advocacy through 2031, aiming to position the region as a nationally significant and diverse industrial hub. The strategy was shaped by consultation with councillors, 42 organisations across key sectors and community input. Glenelg Shire Council says the 25-26 cruise season is continuing strongly, with a third ship scheduled to dock in Portland this week, bringing hundreds of visitors ashore. The visit is expected to provide a boost to local businesses and tourism operators. And Manningham Council has endorsed redevelopment of the Aquarina Aquatic and Leisure Centre, replacing the ageing facility and delivering upgraded pools and community amenities, with works due to begin next month. You're listening to the Local Government News Roundup. This is episode number 557 and we are barrelling towards our 5th birthday. Yes, the first episode of the Roundup was released on the 21st of March 2021. And as we move into our 6th year, we have some exciting things happening I can't wait to tell you about. Stay tuned, more on that in the coming weeks. Let's round up some news out of New South Wales. In Sydney's West, Cumberland Council has voted down a proposal to investigate renaming the area's 5 wards using Indigenous titles. The motion from Councillor Ahmed Oof was framed as a gesture of inclusion and recognition of traditional owners, but opponents argued the change would be symbolic and ineffective, with Libertarian Councillor Steve Christo leading a fierce attack during a heated chamber debate, according to the Daily Telegraph. The discussion spilled into accusations of Islamophobia linked to an Australia Day March video before the council returned to the question of ward names. In the end, only a small group of councillors backed the proposal and the motion was defeated. Wollongong City Council has knocked back an attempt to fast-track a debate on alleged police brutality during recent Sydney protests. The Illawarra Mercury reported that Greens councillor Kit Docker sought an urgency motion after claims police used pepper spray and punched demonstrators during protests over the visit of Israeli President Isaac Herzog. Lord Mayor Tanya Brown argued the incidents happened outside the Wollongong area and were not a council matter, but she said the matter could be added to a future meeting agenda. The New South Wales Office of Local Government says it received 1,801 complaints about councils in 2024-25, up from 1,242 the year before, and those complaints spanned 115 councils. However, it warns that complaint volumes don't always reflect the seriousness of the issues and may be driven by organised campaigns. About 1 in 5 complaints related to financial management. On councillor conduct, the OLG recorded 40 pecuniary interest allegations and 40 other misconduct complaints. 3 investigations were launched with 2 findings of misconduct and 1 still underway. 3 Section 430 investigations were finalised and a public inquiry was ordered into Liverpool City Council, which is still ongoing. Liverpool Plains Shire Council will shift Plains Fitness to an unstaffed 24/7 model from June 1 to cut costs. It says the move comes after years of subsidies and a projected $2.3 million loss over the next decade. The council will also seek expressions of interest from private operators or lessees, arguing a gym is not a core local government function and may be run more sustainably by the private sector. The Hills Shire Council has paid tribute to its General Manager Michael Edgar, marking 40 years in local government. The milestone was recognised in a mayoral minute. Mr Edgar began his career as a trainee environmental health surveyor at Blacktown City Council in 1986, before moving through senior roles at Blue Mountains City Council. He later joined the Hills Shire, where he was appointed General Manager in 2017. Mayor Dr Michelle Byrne praised his steady leadership during a period of rapid growth, major infrastructure delivery and strong financial management. The outgoing chair of the Newcastle Airport Board, Jude Munro AO, well known across the local government sector, has been presented with a key to the city after a period of strong investment and expansion at the airport. City leaders say Ms Munro's tenure boosted regional connectivity, backed major terminal works and the Astra Aerolab precinct, and strengthened the airport's sustainability credentials. Ms Munro says the recognition reflects a broader team effort and Newcastle's ambition, as the Keys to the City program continues to spotlight contributors to the region's long-term growth. And Shoalhaven Water is undertaking one of its biggest ever projects with a $190 million decade-long pipeline construction. The Bamarang to Milton water trunk main will deliver secure water supply to rapidly growing townships near Ulladulla. The 24-kilometre pipeline will take water from the north to the south of the Shoalhaven region. The project is being designed to be shovel-ready, while Shoalhaven Water works to secure state and federal government funding for construction. Also happening now, Randwick Council has endorsed a plan to curb unsafe shared e-bike parking by geofencing beaches and town centres and working with operators on exclusion zones and preferred parking spots. Bega Valley Shire Council will take 3 motions to the Alga National General Assembly, including a call for national leadership to remove planning and regulatory barriers that limit wider approval of tiny homes as an affordable housing option. And Wagga Wagga City Council has approved a controversial Ura abattoir development after multiple deferrals, despite strong community opposition and concerns about environmental and engineering risks. The proponent has already appealed to the New South Wales Land and Environment Court over council delays, with the court hearing scheduled to begin today, according to Region Riverina. We are rounding up news from right across the local government sector in Australia and beyond. A global report a little later on. And speaking of global issues, we all see it, rising incivility, deepening mistrust and divided communities, and it's making good governance harder than ever. That's why I'm joining Diane Kalan-Sucre on the 17th of April in Australia, the 16th elsewhere around the world, for the second Global Civility Summit. We're bringing together a dozen frontline leaders and world-renowned experts. like Mayor David Holt, Kim Scott and Donna Hicks, to share proven tools for rebuilding trust and resetting toxic dynamics. This isn't just a talk, it's a working summit where you'll walk away with your own personalised roadmap to renewing civic culture. But seats are limited. Register today at calenacademy.com/civility summit. And we'll see you on the 16th of April at 4 p.m. North American time, 17th of April, 6 a.m. here in Australia. Now for the Queensland Report, and Gold Coast City Council is facing criticism from unions after offering workers a one-off 3.5% wage increase. That's 1.7% below the current cost of living index. Workers say this is the lowest offer among all southeast Queensland councils. Services Union Secretary Neil Henderson says Gold Coast Council workers are already among the lowest paid in Queensland, and this offer would see them fall even further behind neighbouring councils. According to union figures, Moreton Bay Council has accepted increases of more than 5%, with Logan, Redland and Ipswich councils following similar patterns. The council's acting CEO, Susan Crisp, has defended the offer, saying workers would receive 7.5% more than for the same period last year when you factor in the early implementation date of July 1. But there is a catch, according to the Gold Coast Bulletin. The offer only stands if unions agree to defer bargaining until February next year and not take any industrial action before July. Redland City Council will transfer land to the Queensland Government for a multi-storey car park at Wynham Creek. The project aims to increase parking for the region's 4 island communities who rely on commuter ferries. Acting Mayor Julie Talty says the council is fast-tracking the infrastructure by working directly with the state government. In more Queensland news, Hinchinbrook Shire says a $3.23 million Works for Queensland package will deliver 13 shovel-ready community infrastructure projects across the Shire, with a focus on practical upgrades residents use day to day. On the Fraser Coast, the council has backed a Queensland Rugby League bid for $3 million in federal funding to upgrade Eskdale Park in Maryborough, with plans for a new clubhouse, upgraded change rooms and improved amenities if the grant is successful. In Goondiwindi, the council has endorsed what it describes as its largest ever capital works project, a nearly $70 million restoration and reinforcement of the town's flood levy after erosion from recent floods. Work is expected to start before the end of the year and finish before the end of 2027. On the Sunshine Coast, Torella Brewing says it will close next month after a long-running legal dispute with Sunshine Coast Council over land use approvals. With the ABC reporting, the business says financial and legal pressures have become unsustainable. And back in Hinchinbrook, the council has issued a public notice for a feral pig aerial shooting program scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday the 18th and 19th of March, covering areas from Forest Beach to Crystal Creek, with temporary closures in place for public safety. Down to the Apple Isle in Kingborough, Councillor Aldo Antoli has announced a run for mayor at the October local government elections, saying there's growing community frustration with council processes and a strong appetite for change. Current Mayor Paula Wright has confirmed to Pulse Tasmania that she will run for mayor again in October. In Launceston, the City Council says the redevelopment of the Princess Theatre and the adjoining Earl Arts Centre is now forecast to cost $43 million, up from earlier estimates of around $30 million. With the ABC reporting, questions are being raised about project budgeting and transparency as work begins. In Hobart, the City Council is back to push to reduce the use of second-generation rodenticides, citing risks to birds of prey and other wildlife, with plans to take the issue to the Local Government Association of Tasmania and to write to the Federal Minister about a national ban. And the Local Government Association of Tasmania is calling for local planning powers to be protected in the state's proposed short-stay levy bill. It's arguing councils need to retain a strong say over short-stay accommodation impacts in their communities. Let's go to South Australia, where reaction continues to come to the South Australian Essential Services Commission report on the financial condition of the state's councils. One of the councils that it warns is headed for a potentially unsustainable position is Norwood, Payneham and St Peters Council, driven largely by debt from the Payneham Memorial Swimming Centre redevelopment. The report says rates will likely need to rise above CPI for years to reduce debt that is forecast to peak at about $106.7 million in 2028-29. Escosa criticises the Council's riskier financial shift and unclear community consultation, according to Adelaide Now. Meanwhile, Kangaroo Island Council says the Escosa report confirms its own findings of past financial mismanagement and supports its ongoing fiscal repair reforms to restore long-term sustainability. Mayor Michael Pengilly says the report provides independent validation of the Council's current direction. Mount Gambier Council has abandoned plans to reclassify short-stay rentals as commercial properties after community backlash, a move welcomed by owners. ABC News reported the proposal would have lifted rates well above residential levels, but the council says the tourism value of short-stay accommodation outweighed the case for higher charges. With vacancy rates under 1%, local services argue the bigger fix is increasing housing supply through new builds. Renmark Paringa Council has approved a $3 million wastewater expansion at Renmark West, a move expected to unlock land for more than 500 new rural living allotments. The council says it will borrow the funds up front, then recover costs through developer contributions with no impact on ratepayers, according to Glam Adelaide. And in the Flinders Ranges, the Flinders Ranges Council has released its priority list ahead of the 2026 state election, calling for investment in water security, a regional childcare centre in Quorn, and new community facilities, including a gym and wellness hub. The council is also seeking commitments to develop the Bluebird precinct and to transform Quorn's first street into a more active township centre. Over in Western Australia, the Shire of Gingin says it's resolved to begin a formal investigation involving its Chief Executive Officer, Scott Wildgoose. The council made the decision at a special meeting last Thursday night. The Shire says Mr Wildgoose will be on leave while the investigation is carried out and interim governance arrangements are in place. It also says day-to-day services to the community will continue as normal. The Shire has stressed the investigation is being conducted under its governance and legislative obligations and that the start of the process does not mean any finding of wrongdoing. No further details will be released at this stage, with the Shire citing procedural fairness and the integrity of the investigation. Mr Wildgoose commenced in the position in October 2024 on a 3-year contract. Deputy Shire President Renee Manning has resigned from the Shire of Merredin Council effective the 10th of March after serving since 2019 and as its Deputy Shire President since 2023. The Shire thanked Renee for her contributions, particularly her advocacy for economic development, strategic planning, infrastructure investment and renewable energy. It said details on filling the vacancy will follow consultation with the WA Electoral Commission. At the City of Perth, councillors have rejected a proposed pause on ratepayer-funded air travel, despite broader cost-cutting moves, as the council responds to concerns about workplace culture and staff safety. WA Today reported the council has approved staged funding of $135,000 to begin implementing recommendations from an independent psychosocial risk assessment. That followed debate that included a ruled-out question about the Lord Mayor's role in the ongoing turmoil. In relation to travel, councillors pledged only that they would not fly business class until October 2027. And still at the City of Perth, a separate report says 7 complaints have been made against council members in the first 7 weeks of the year, adding to scrutiny on council conduct and governance, according to the West Australian. At the City of Wanneroo, councillors have voted to push ahead with Stage 1 of the proposed Neerabup Resource Recovery Precinct after a heated meeting where a member of the public was ejected. The decision comes despite continuing community concern about any future waste-to-energy incinerator concept flagged for later stages, according to Perth Now. And back to the Shire of Merredin, which says it's proceeding with a corella control program, describing it as a last resort after 2 years of damage costs topping $50,000. There will be temporary public access restrictions and road closures during the works. Now let's check out some of the stories making news in other jurisdictions as we go on a little trip around the world, which starts in the UK. Actor Martin Clunes has lost a 4-year battle to stop a permanent travellers site being approved next to his home in Bowminster, Dorset. The Independent reported that the local council voted 7-2 in favour after a flood risk assessment found no significant surface water risk over the development's expected lifetime. The site will be limited to 2 residential caravans, with any changes required to be removed within 4 months if the couple no longer live there. Clunes' legal representative argued the applicants did not meet the planning definition of travellers and warned the decision could encourage similar applications, while council officers said there is a significant unmet need for traveller sites and that impacts on neighbours would be limited. In other UK news, in Lancashire, the deputy leader of Lancashire County Council has apologised after sharing and then deleting a Facebook post which said a Labor MP should be shot, with Reform UK describing it as an honest mistake and saying no further action will be taken. The government has also confirmed exceptional financial support for a range of cash-strapped councils, including Slough, West Berkshire, Windsor and Maidenhead and the Isle of Wight, allowing measures such as borrowing or asset sales to balance budgets, although some council leaders say it amounts to more debt rather than new funding, according to the BBC News. Which also reports in the northeast of England, Redcar and Cleveland Borough Council is set to receive almost £18.5 million in emergency support to help it manage budget pressures and set a balanced budget, auditors having flagged longer-term sustainability risks there. And in North Wales, Conwy Town's mayor has called on Conwy County Council to cut hundreds of jobs and senior roles, including the chief executive position. He's arguing it could reduce council tax pressure as the county considers a 6.5% increase. That story comes from North Wales Live. Now to our US update. First up in Baltimore, the City Council has remained silent following a damning Inspector General report that details questionable spending practices inside the Mayor's office. The report has raised concerns about financial oversight and accountability at the highest levels of city government. Residents and advocacy groups are calling for transparency and answers, but council members have yet to publicly address the findings, according to Fox Baltimore. In Dallas, CBS News reports that city officials are facing a tough decision about the future of City Hall itself. Experts are warning that repairs to the ageing building could cost up to $1 billion. The city now must decide whether to invest in extensive renovations or consider rebuilding entirely. The decision will have major implications for the city's budget and downtown development for years to come. And from NPR, a report that some cities are rethinking their use of flock licence plate readers. These automated surveillance systems have become increasingly popular with law enforcement, but concerns over privacy, costs and data security are prompting several municipalities to discontinue their contracts with the company. City councils in multiple jurisdictions are weighing whether the benefits of automated plate recognition justify the expense and potential civil liberties issues. Just last week, the city of Linwood became the first in the state of Washington to terminate its contract with Flock after activating its cameras. And finally, some news out of New Zealand, where many councils have just released their draft annual plans for the upcoming year, with significant rates increases proposed across the board. Auckland's Mayor Wayne Brown is consulting on a proposed 7.9% average residential rates increase. Much of this is driven by the operational costs of the nearly opening City Rail link. Christchurch Council is proposing a 7.4% increase for average households, while exploring options to pause climate and environmental funds to keep costs down. And Environment Canterbury's draft plan is open for feedback, focusing on balanced delivery of core services while navigating the government's structural reforms. It proposes an overall rates revenue increase of 2.9%. Meanwhile, on Friday, Environment Canterbury issued a formal abatement notice to the Christchurch City Council. It follows over 4,500 complaints since January regarding a putrid sewage-like smell coming from the fire-damaged Bromley wastewater treatment plant. The City Council has until March 16 to present a detailed mitigation plan. It marks a significant escalation in the relationship between the regional regulator and the City Council. And now you're up to date with the latest from the Local Government News Roundup. This edition, number 557, recorded on the morning of Monday, the 2nd of March 2026. Comments or feedback can be sent by email to lgweeklynews@gmail.com. You can find out more about the episode, including story links, at lgnewsroundup.com. The Roundup is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. We record in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening and bye for now.